People often ask me why I call myself a bearded observer. It's not because of the beard, although you'd think so. And it's not because I think I have all the answers. It's because after 78 years of living, serving in the Marine Corps, raising a family, building businesses, succeeding, failing, and starting over, I've learned something. The people who seem to navigate life the best aren't always the smartest or the strongest. They're the ones who learn to observe, to pay attention to history, to people, to consequences, to the quiet lessons that most of us walk right past. If you've ever wondered how ordinary people find their way through extraordinary circumstances, welcome aboard. I've had successes in my life, and I've also had my ups and downs. But I've also watched my 4 little grandsons come into the world, and watching them discover their world gives me pause. History has a way of teaching us what courage looks like. I think about my dad's generation, World War II generation. And that was a group. When you think about the D-Day invasion in Normandy in June of 1944, General Eisenhower had quite a task ahead of him because he was launching the largest land invasion that ever happened in history. He knew the consequences. They had suffered some pretty severe, disasters when they did some trial and errors. Operation Tiger was one of those things when they had a simulated landing in southern England. They lost about 700 men. I mean, this was training, and it's because of how they did it. They had bad communication. It was just a real mess from the start. And he knew that's what was on the horizon if he didn't get this right. The weather was going to play a big part in this because they were landing from the sea, and if the weather was blowing hard, if the waves were high, then they would have trouble getting off the boats and get onto land. I mean, the weather itself would give them trouble, let alone the Germans firing at them. And he looked out his window and he could see that at that time, this was like Friday and Saturday before the Monday launch on the 5th, the weather was beautiful. And his meteorologist, one that had given him pretty good counsel all throughout the war history, was telling him that because of the patterns that they saw then, based on what had happened in the past, it looked like they were going to have sunny skies. That gave them an advantage. They wouldn't have the weather to deal with, but also give the Germans advantage because they could have air cover. They could also see what they were shooting at from the bunkers. Churchill had given Eisenhower what he considered a super meteorologist. I think it was Group Commander Stagg. And Stagg saw some things in the weather predictions that looked pretty bad. He was telling Eisenhower that it was going to be a hurricane condition, and they were going to have trouble if they launched on Monday. Now they were faced with some obstacles because the lunar system, the tides, the skies, all that kind of stuff would set the Monday the 5th of June as the best time. They would have to wait another 2 weeks for those conditions to be the same. And the Allied commanders knew that if they postponed the Monday launch, that they were going to have some serious trouble. The Germans would figure out that they're where they were going to land, and they'd be ready. So everyone was telling Eisenhower that he had to go on the 4th or the 5th, and if they didn't, it would be another disaster, another potential problem. So he basically postponed the 5th on Saturday afternoon when he would have to make the decision to go. He postponed it for fear that he would have bad weather, even though outside the sky right then looked good. Well, later that day, the meteorologist Stagg saw some things that he thought maybe they would have a little window of opportunity where the weather would clear, and they'd be able to do that, but they couldn't do it on Monday, but it would happen Tuesday morning. And so Eisenhower decided to do that. He launched the preparations for getting the launch started on Tuesday, 6 a.m., and he just made that decision based on the best information he could get at the time. And this is the point that I'm trying to make here, is that people have to make decisions based on sometimes not faulty information, but incomplete information. You don't have 100% assurances that life's going to turn out the way you want. That's what my dad's generation was faced with. My generation, when I grew up, our problem was the Vietnam War. We had to learn some lessons. And the thing that I learned early because of my, I don't know, just growing up in a rural community that was very patriotic, and I saw the war stories in the movies, and I read Battle Cry by Leon Uris, got me all revved up. I wanted to go prove myself and see what the world was like, and so I was going to join the Marines. And I ended up doing that. Sometimes the hardest experiences we have teach us things that we needed to learn. And that's what I learned. That's what my dad's generation learned. And probably every generation prior to my dad's generation here in America. For 250 years, we've been dealing with how do we get along in the world, keeping our freedom and our peace. Always faithful.